In the last episode in this series, I talked about my current workout schedule and the people that have been the greatest influence on my training over the past 2 years. In this episode, I'm going to dive into my 3 resistance training days and how I periodize those workouts. Each leg day starts with a reverse out knee pain warm-up. This is a method I learned from Ben Patrick and has become a staple in my workouts. I either start with backwards walking or pulling a reverse sled. I'm not going until exhaustion, just enough to get a good pump and get the blood flowing around the knees. My first leg day on Monday is centered around the ATG split squat. As I talked about in the last video, when I was originally doing the ATG knee ability program, I was struggling to make progress with the higher volume, lower intensity workouts. When I would try to add load to the higher volume rep scheme, I would start to experience pain. To fix this issue, I split my focus for the ATG split squat into 2 sessions during the week. During my first workout on Monday, I would focus primarily on increasing load. And during my second session on Thursday, I would focus on increasing range of motion with only my body weight. In order to do this, I had to work at a higher front foot elevation for my first session, then I would work at a lower elevation for the second session. Each set during my workout, I lowered my front foot around 2 inches to ease my body into the range of motion, rather than pushing myself to my fullest range of motion on the first set. After a few months of this method, I slowly but surely made my way down to a full range of motion ATG split squat, completely pain-free. The rep scheme I use for this progression is the exact same one as the one I outlined in my Nordic progression video. The progression is 3x8 week 1, followed by 3x6 week 2, followed by 3x4 week 3, and then start back over. The weight increases 5 pounds each week, and at the end of the 3rd week, you start back over with the weight you were using for your 3x6 for the new 3x8 in the cycle. The other variable I played with was my foot elevation. After each couple of cycles, I would lower my front foot another 2 inches and start all over again with my original weight and build my strength back up in this new range. This may not be the fastest method to progress your ATG split squat, but has worked well for me. It's kept me pain-free and making constant progress in both load and range of motion until I could reach flat ground. The other secondary moves on my first leg day are the Poliquin step up, the Jefferson curl, the standing single calf raise, and the weighted tib raise. I've experimented some with the hip flexor lift as well as reverse Nordics, but these other exercises mentioned have been the true staples in my routine. I've used a similar rep scheme and periodization for these exercises, but have stopped trying to progress all of them simultaneously. I tend to go slightly higher reps on my tib raises in the 10 to 15 range, but everything else follows a similar pattern to the progression outline with the 8-6-4 scheme. As you get further into any weight training program, it gets hard to progress every single movement at the same time. The best way I've found to tackle this problem is to purposely stall and maintain certain movements before you hit a wall, while keeping your focus on 1 or 2 primary lifts at a time. The second leg day is on Thursday, and it's centered around the Nordic hamstring curl. I have a video that goes in depth on how I got my first flat ground Nordic curl, which I have linked in the description. The primary factors that got me there were the 8-6-4 cycling rep scheme, using cluster sets when I would get close to a plateau, and also playing with both load and range of motion as part of my progression. Unlike the ATG split squat, I only currently do Nordic curls once a week. Even in this lower rep range, they take a long time to recover from, and I found myself not recovering when I tried to do them twice a week with the 3x8-6-4 rep scheme. The other movements outside of the Nordic curl on Thursday are bodyweight ATG split squats. Again, this one should be viewed more as practice of the form and range of motion, as well as either bodyweight Patrick step-ups or bodyweight Poliquin step-ups. The other movements on Thursday are a KOT calf raise or seated calf raise, as well as either weighted tib raises or wall tib raises. When you're first starting out with the lifting program, you should be making progress on everything. As you get further along and your workouts become more intense, you're going to have to pick and choose what your focus is, because your progress is limited by your body's ability to recover. Last but not least is my Saturday upper body resistance day. I've played around with a few different movements over the last few months, but the biggest staple in my routine has remained the pull-up. I've progressed my pull-ups using the same 8-6-4 rep scheme and periodization that I've used for both my split squat and Nordic curl. The other movements I'm currently doing besides the pull-up are Australian pull-ups, banded pull-aparts, banded dips, skull crushers, and banded external rotation. The rep schemes remain the same, 8-6-4 across the board, with some movements entering a maintenance phase as I continue to progress on my pull-ups. As I've mentioned before in this series, a lot of what will work best for you is based on your neurotype. My neurotype is type 1B, and I found that I respond much better to a lower volume, higher intensity style workout, and I've built my periodization around this. I encourage you to play around with your rep schemes until you find what works best for you. The most important thing is to track what you're doing so that you can tell if you're making progress or not. It's common to want to switch programs every few weeks to the new latest and greatest thing, but in the long run this will completely kill your progress. The best program is a program that you will stick to, and a program that keeps you excited to continue to train. I hope sharing the movements and periodization for my current resistance training will help give you a better idea of how to structure your own training. If you liked the video, give it a thumbs up to help other people find it, and subscribe for new videos every week.